We have Congressman Walter Jones, 3rd District Congressman, representing the 3rd District of North Carolina for the great state and the great nation of the United States and the U.S. Congress. Good morning, Congressman. How are you?
I'm doing great. Ever since you made the coffee, I just feel like a different person.
How is the coffee?
It's great.
Is it okay?
It really is.
I was afraid it might be a little bit too strong, but I'm glad. You know, Congressman came in, no coffee. It was a huge tragedy.
It really was. I started to leave, but then you came out about that time and decided you would make coffee. So here I am.
It's Minji's Select, by the way. Our boys over at Pepsi provide us with a coffee.
Splendid.
It's the best.
It is
coffee
good.
For your office.
Very smooth.
If you're not getting the Minji's Select coffee, you need to call the Minji's Bottling Company, get them to bring you some, and you try it. It's very good. Well, it's great to see you. Let's start off with your announcement, because I mentioned on the show yesterday that you were going to make an announcement. I know that you put out a press release earlier, but a lot of folks may not know this.
Yep.
What you've done in honor of our old friend Randy Dabb. For folks who don't know Randy Dabb, Randy was a college classmate of mine, and actually, you may not even know this. We started in radio together. Randy actually worked at the campus radio station about the same time I did. But he got smart and went and got a law degree. And Randy, of course, just one of the great human beings
Absolutely.
that you would have ever met in your life if you had the honor of knowing Randy, became a George Bush 43, appointed Randy to become the federal bankruptcy judge for Eastern North Carolina. And he spent his life helping people. And really did anyone who ever met Randy knew that he really had a passion for other people. And, you say this about people posthumously, but it's true in Randy's case. He really, Randy was a deeply sensitive, deeply caring person.
Absolutely.
I have great memories of conversations that I had with him, and Judge Dabb, tragically, about a month ago, dropped dead, and no one really saw that coming.
No, and Henry, your comments about Randy were right on target, and I couldn't add anything to what you said. He was a beautiful human being who loved the Lord, who loved the Constitution, and I think it was just perfect that President Bush would name him the federal bankruptcy judge for the eastern part of North Carolina. And he was a compassionate judge, and it was kind of interesting when you introduce a bill in Congress to name a building or a facility for a individual who has passed on. You have to go to your entire delegation, and certainly since Congressman G.K. Butterfield and I share many counties in eastern North Carolina, I reached out to him, and there was no hesitation. He said, Walter, I knew Judge Dabb, and I thought he was a wonderful human being. I thought he was a fair-minded person, and I will join you in this effort. And he actually reached out to Federal Judge Wynn just to ask him what he thought, and he agreed 100% that the building should be named.
So for people to know what we're talking about, we've got this beautiful new federal courthouse on Reed Circle in Greenville, right across the street from the Shepherd Memorial Library. And, one of my great guilt feelings is that Randy asked me several times. I mean, every time I saw him, and he emailed me several times. Used to email me during the show in the morning about something here and there. It was funny. Randy would hear us talking about something, and Randy would email me his opinion on it and say, "Don't say that I said that," because he was protecting his position as a federal judge. But Randy really was the guy that was the catalyst for getting that brand new federal courthouse built in Greenville, and it's a beautiful, beautiful facility. And I believe last week, am I right about this, Congressman Jones, you have filed a bill.
Congressman Butterfield and myself put in the bill. I want it to be known as a companion bill because this is a man who happened to be a Republican, but was respected by everyone, whether they be a Democrat or Republican or an independent, because he was so fair-minded, and he understood the law. He understood his responsibilities. Very quickly, Henry, the way the process works, this is a building that is owned by the Watterson Company out of Chicago, and it's leased to the federal government. So I had to go to GAO. They came in, and I told them we wanted to put a bill in to name this facility for Randy because, as you said, he advocated so hard for this building, and it came in under budget, by the way, which made him real happy, as you can imagine.
Well,
And
not a surprise that Randy was alive.
absolutely, it came in under budget.
Yeah.
And so the GAO said, well, since we leased this building, you need to go to the owners of the building, and again, they're in Chicago. And Brian Orr has worked with us. They were so sad to understand because they worked so closely with Randy to get everything right that he had passed on. But they were very supportive and gave us the permission to go ahead and introduce the bill. And I want to say that Judge Howard, Judge Flanagan, and we communicated with all the federal judges in this area, and they were very supportive of this happening. So my thinking is sometime during the year this bill should become law. I mean, we got to work it. It's not nothing that happens easy, believe me.
And so the federal courthouse here in Greenville will become the what will it be called?
Well, it would be the Judge Randy Dabb federal building. It would be a federal building.
Good.
Named for him. And we have to work it. Nothing in Washington happens easy, but I think we're in pretty good shape on this one.
Yeah. Well, that's great news, and God bless Randy Dabb.
He is missed.
I was actually at a basketball game, an ECU basketball game, when I got a text from, I believe, Kimberly Robb, our district attorney, to say, I don't know if you've heard this, and it's interesting, his former law partner, Phil Dixon, who's a good friend of yours and
You're
mine,
right.
Phil was sitting right down from me, and, I was trying to decide if I should go tell Phil or not, but I thought, well, you know what, I need to tell him. So I got up and walked down, and I told Phil, hey, we just got word that Randy Dabb has just passed away. And both of us sat there at the ECU game just kind of stunned over it,
Well, I think there must have been 1,000 people at his funeral service,
Yeah.
and that was a testimony to the type of individual that he is.
Yeah.
Was and has lived his life, and he's touched a lot of people, and many of the people that appeared before him in court, I've been told, that he wanted to find a resolution to give them a chance.
Yeah.
And that's really what Mr. Butterfield said to me. He said, everything I've heard about the man, that he did everything he could to try to lift people up. Well, that was his faith.
Right.
That's his faith.
Yeah. A family man and a great human being, and again,
Wonderful
a college
wife and
classmate of
children,
mine.
yeah.
Just one of my favorite people when I was going to school at ECU, and what a loss for our community to lose Randy Dabb. All right, let's talk about other things. Let me say this first. I know that some folks reached out to you with this idea on Randy, and suggested you embraced it immediately because I know you were very close friends with him. But there were some friends, including Randy Gentry, who is the number 2 guy in the Pitt County Sheriff's Office, who was a very close friend of Judge Dabb, and I know and others who kind of got this movement going to get the building named after him. So God bless them as well, because they're good folks.
Anything like this is so important that you need a team effort. And he was loved and appreciated by so many people. And
all right, you were in the news week before last, I believe, when the House voted on the budget, and you were one of 17 Republicans that voted no on the new budget. You're just making friends and
creating a lot of enemies.
Did John
too.
Boehner take you out to dinner after that?
Well, I think since I stopped smoking, Mr. Boehner doesn't spend much time with me. And by the way, I've never smoked.
The last time you were on here talking about John Boehner, it ended up on a national website, right? Remember that?
Right. Oh, yeah.
so
Well,
Boehner's going to see that.
Mr.
Speaker?
I truthfully, as I said, I have a lot of respect. But Henry, the problem is, let me say this very quickly. When Bill Clinton left office, our debt of our nation in 2000 was $5.9 trillion. It's now over $18.1 trillion. And we're not being honest with the American people. We are very dishonest with these budget resolutions. And I told the leadership that I said, I could probably, other issues that would bother me, but I probably could live with that. I said, but you're adding $94 billion under the guise of trying to rebuild our military, which they're in trouble. Let me make that clear. And I support our military. one of the strongest supporters in Washington, as a matter of fact. But of the $94 billion that's being added, half of it's going to Afghanistan. And I was in Little Washington this past Tuesday. I spoke at the Rotary Club, but I had a prior meeting with the mayor and two of the town officials. They're talking about infrastructure needs, pipes that need under the pavement that need to be replaced. There used to be programs and low-interest loans that towns and cities could get to make infrastructure changes. We don't have those programs anymore. I really hope I can spend some time at the expo. I'm really excited. I want to thank those of you that put that together. And if I can spend a little bit of time, I want to be in the crowd. I don't want to do anything but sit and listen. I'd like to be for the whole event, but I probably can't. But I'm going to find a couple of hours, and I'm going to go down there and listen. And
I hope you will.
And I want to hear the people, because I know the trouble that the local officials are feeling, the pressure, the financial pressure. And here we have absolutely no business continuing for 9 more years to spend an average of $25 to $30 billion a year in Afghanistan. And John Sopko, the Inspector General, has said it is a waste. It's nothing but a waste. But my party and the Democrats keep, as Roger Simon, who is the editor for Politico, wrote, that all we're doing is putting money down a rat hole.
Yeah.
And nobody seems to care about it.
And isn't it interesting that many people, including you, warned that they were cutting too much out of the military budget
Absolutely.
way back, and our priorities have gotten so out of whack.
They really have.
And now, the rationale is we've got to add more because we got we got problems with the military. No kidding. You could have phoned that one in 10 years ago from long distance.
Well, Henry, I am for keeping the money home to rebuild the military and share some of the money with the American people who are paying the taxes.
Yeah.
I don't know. This gets me so, and I've said it, and I'm glad to see that Saudis have gotten involved with the Yemen situation. The Middle East, the countries of the Middle East, they should be the ones with their troops on the ground. They should be the ones spending their money, and let us help them. I'm all for helping, but I'm not for taking the lead.
I guess you're following the Iran talks. They extended the deadline yesterday for 3 more months. I know you're not directly involved. We're going to have Richard Burr in here tomorrow morning, who, of course, is now the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Very important position, too.
I assume that he's involved, although he's home right now, and I think he's appearing in New Bern tonight. Going to be here live in the studio tomorrow morning, so I'll be interested in his comments about this. But, what in the world? I mean, you got a president who doesn't, who says he supports Israel, but clearly doesn't.
Well,
and you wonder what's the thinking on this, and what's the rationale when you're talking about Iran, who clearly is maybe the most dangerous threat to the world that we've ever seen. Is that being too?
A couple of points, and I'm glad you're going to have Senator Burr on. He's in a very important position, and he gets, as chairman of that Intel committee, he'll get briefings that I would not get. So therefore, I think, and of course, he can't tell what he's told in a classified briefing, but he'll have a different perspective, which I'm going to listen to the show myself. And again, I have a lot of respect for Richard. This is, we have, if you remember, and then I'm going to come back to an answer, that in the 80s, when Saddam Hussein was fighting the Iranians and kicking them in the posterior, Saddam was our friend, and we supported him.
Yep.
We gave him weapons and everything else. So obviously he's gone, has been gone. Everything has started to fall apart over there. The Iranians are taking over certain areas of the Middle East. And that was your concern. You just stated that. That's my concern. My thinking is that as we move forward, if they come up with some type of blueprint at this meeting in Switzerland, then we, the American people, when I say we, will have an opportunity to dissect what they're proposing. And I'm not very optimistic, to be honest with you. But we'll wait and see. But at this point, my information about the talks is pretty much like yours and everybody else on the internet and in the newspapers. So we'll wait and see what happens. Mr. Burr, Senator Burr, will have a different perspective, I'm sure.
Well, we'll talk to him about that tomorrow. Let's get a break in, and we'll come back. Congressman Walter Jones live in the studio with us this morning. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Happy
Thank you
Easter to you, and God bless you, and thank you for all you do for us.
Well, thank you, my friend, and
Yeah.
it's a pleasure to be with you, and may God continue to bless America and our men and women in uniform.
You got
Have
it.
a happy Easter.
Thank you. Thank you very much.